In this episode of the Red and Gold Report, we're going to be breaking down the Chiefs' recent shellacking of the Steelers and catching up on all the most recent Chiefs news. The storyline for the Chiefs game was simple. After the Chiefs jumped out to a 14-0 lead in the first quarter, the rest of the game had about as much suspense as me wondering if Kevin McAllister is going to be able to defend his home from two criminals as I watched the movie Home Alone for the 73rd time. It was obvious what the outcome was going to be. And Steelers fans, they must have been naughty this year because it only got uglier for Pittsburgh from there. Steelers fumbles, interceptions, dropped passes, and their quarterback looking more like Grandpa Roethlisberger than Big Ben all did Pittsburgh in. On the other side of the ball, the story of the game for the Chiefs was playing smart football. Through the air, the Chiefs were efficient. Mahomes went 23 for 30 with 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. And in the second half, Andy Reid decided to give every Chiefs fan exactly what we wanted for Christmas, a Kansas City Chiefs running game. The Chiefs ran 35 times for 127 yards on the ground. The fourth quarter became nothing but really junk time, with both teams sending their backup quarterbacks into the game, and by the end the score was 36-10, but it easily could have been 50-3. So if all you wanted for Christmas was a playoff spot for the Chiefs and a blowout victory, well then, Merry Christmas. And hey, as we get going, if you want weekly Chiefs news brought to you right here on the interwebs, make sure you follow and like and subscribe and all of that good stuff to this channel. Who was the MVP for the Chiefs? Well, I'm going to give it to the whole entire stinking offensive line. In the passing game, the Chiefs line dominated Pittsburgh, allowing only 4 pressures on 32 pass blocking snaps, even though they were without a starting right tackle. Center Creed Humphrey and left tackle Orlando Brown each allowed 0 pressures, 0, and were never beaten once on pass snaps. The most impressive play for me of the game for the offensive line was the second touchdown in the game, where the offensive line seemed to give Mahomes about 11 minutes in the pocket. It was awesome. On the ground, the line consistently opened huge holes for the running backs. They were able to pave the way for a great running attack even late in the game, when the defense for the Steelers knew exactly what the Chiefs were going to be doing. They were going to be running the ball. This offensive line is ready for the playoffs and was the MVP of the game for sure. With the MVP in mind, well, who else played well for the Chiefs? Well, wide receiver Byron Pringle led the team with 6 receptions and 75 yards receiving. With Kelsey out, everyone assumed that Tyreek Hill would lead the way receiving, but actually it was Pringle. It wasn't a perfect game. He did have a drop pass and a penalty, but it was yet another proof that he deserves to be the team's second wide receiver. My favorite play of his was his touchdown reception, where he made 4 guys miss, and he followed up with a hilarious touchdown celebration, including a staged heart resuscitation. Running back Darrell Williams also had a great game, leading the way on the ground with 11 carries for 55 yards for a 5-yard average, while he added another 30 yards through the air. My favorite play of his was in the first quarter. Mahomes faked the handoff to him. Williams delayed, then he ran up the middle of the field, found this perfect soft spot in the zone defense, and he got a first down on his reception. Mahomes also had an efficient game with a 77% completion rating and no turnovers. He seemed to simply be in control of the entire game, and he easily could have had 4 touchdowns had he not been taken out at the end of the game. But more on him in a minute. Moving over to defense, defensive tackle Tershawn Wharton created 6 quarterback pressures, even though he wasn't a starter, 1 sack, and he forced a fumble. He also won an incredible 21% of his pass rush snaps. Wharton is a converted defensive end who, he does struggle in the run game, but wow, he really is turning in some excellent games against the pass. Linebacker Willie Gay also turned in a great performance. He had 2 defensive stops to send the Steelers off of the field. He also had a tackle for loss on a 4th down, but my favorite play of his was when he tracked down the running back from the backside of the play at the beginning of the second quarter. Corner Tervarius Ward held receivers to under 35 yards in coverage. He also had an interception in the first quarter and played tight coverage throughout the game. With those positives done, well, how about the Chiefs who struggled? Well, there weren't many. I mean, there's a reason that it was a blowout win, but we got to mention a few. Kicker Elliott Fry was signed in lieu of Harrison Butker out of the game on the COVID list. Fry missed 2 kicks, an extra point, and then also a short field goal at the end of the the second quarter. Not a good game for him. Also, Chad Henne coming in for Mahomes at the end of the blowout. Not so good. He immediately fumbled the ball 2 times, the first 2 times that he touched it. It was kind of weird for a veteran, but luckily it could just be laughed off by that point on the game because it was a blowout. Tyreek Hill was also surprisingly absent with Kelsey out, only had a few catches, but I think that had a lot to do with the defensive scheme and less to do with Hill himself. And with those negatives out of the way, let's move on to a few insights that you may have missed in the game. The first insight is all about Mahomes himself. Over the Christmas break, I kept getting asked by family members and friends what I thought was up with Mahomes early in the season. And I think that as he has good games, like he did against the Steelers, really good games, that the answer is becoming quite clear. He was just forcing it early in the season. Now, why was he forcing it? 2 reasons. First, he was forcing it because of the defense. With the defense stinking it up early in the season, Mahomes must have felt like he had to score 50 points to win a game. I mean, think about this. According to my maths, Mahomes has 5 games this season without an interception. He also has 3 games with multiple interceptions this season. In the games when he threw 0 interceptions, the defense allowed an average of 13.8 points. But in the games where he threw multiple interceptions, the defense allowed an average of 27 points. That's about double. So it's clear in games where the defense was really struggling, Mahomes was obviously forcing the ball to try to make up for it. Second, he was forcing the ball because of a struggling running game that could not put the team in good third down situations. Think about this. 8 of Mahomes' 14 interceptions, most of them for the season, have come on third downs. That too is way more than a coincidence. And to add to that, defenses were hanging back in coverage due to not respecting the running game. So why was he struggling early this season? Simple. He was forcing the ball into coverage to try to make up for the team around him. But hey, you know what? As our defense has played really, really well lately, as our running game has gotten going in some games, well, Mahomes has become incredibly efficient once again, throwing 8 touchdowns to only 1 interception over the last 3 weeks, all because he simply doesn't have to feel like he's got to force things. Another insight we need to look at has to do with the Chiefs' running game, which really hit its stride on Sunday. Now, starting running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire injured his collarbone in the 3rd quarter. The x-rays have come back negative for a break. He should be out a few weeks, and there should be more info by Tuesday after a pending MRI. But here's the thing. And I know I'm a total Grinch for saying this, okay? But the running game really took off without him. Clyde was, in my very Grinchy view, clearly the Chiefs' 3rd best running back on Sunday. Darrell Williams averaged 5 yards per carry, while Clyde only averaged 3, with just 27 yards on 9 carries. That's not good. Derek Gore also had a better running average than Clyde and added 61 yards receiving. He was great through the air during the game. Darrell Williams also added 30 yards receiving, but Clyde, he only had 4 yards receiving. Did Clyde have a nice touchdown after breaking a tackle near the goal line? Absolutely. But other than that, he was holding the running game back while also not contributing in the passing game like Williams and Gore have. And stunningly, over the last 11 games, Clyde has only led the team in rushing twice. Meanwhile, no one's noticing. Darrell Williams is turning into one of the best receiving backs in all of football. He currently has the 7th most receiving yards of any running back in the league, even though he's not even a starter. He's a backup. And even though he's had fewer receiving opportunities than the 6 backs ahead of him in receiving yards. It is unfortunate that we'll only get to see the Williams-Gore combo take over for Clyde due to an injury, but we may just see the running game take off again over the next few weeks because of it. With those insights out of the way, let's move on to our recent Chiefs news. Of course, the huge news in Chiefs Kingdom is that with the win against Pittsburgh, the Chiefs have clinched their 6th straight AFC West division titles. Yes, 6th straight, and they locked in their place in the playoffs. The last time the Chiefs lost this season was before Halloween in Nashville. We are on a roll. The Chiefs currently sit on top of the AFC, and the next 2 weeks will determine if the team gets home field advantage all the way through the playoffs. Also in Chiefs news, Patrick Mahomes has now thrown more touchdowns at Arrowhead Stadium than anyone else in history, which is pretty cool. In other Chiefs news, and more evidence that the Pro Bowl voting is a complete joke, joke, Creed Humphrey missed the Pro Bowl. Yeah, the best graded offensive center in the entire league did not even make the Pro Bowl. However, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, Tyrann Mathieu, and Orlando Brown Jr. all made the Pro Bowl squad for the AFC, which is great, but I mean, how Brown and Mathieu made it and Humphrey didn't is exactly what's messed up with the Pro Bowl. In other recent news, COVID has been wreaking havoc on the Chiefs this last week. Starters Bolton, Niang, and Kelce were all out on Sunday. So were our starting kicker Butker and punter Townsend, corner Rashad Fitton, safety Armani Watts, guard Kyle Long, along with 3 assistant coaches. We're all hoping that things settle down this week and no one misses the upcoming contest and everybody stays healthy. And in other health news, safety Tyrann Mathieu left Sunday's game with a quad injury, and we're going to be watching to see how serious it is in the days ahead. And finally, the Chiefs are going to be playing the red-hot Bengals in Cincinnati this Sunday afternoon. I'm expecting a victory, but hey, the Bengals are loaded at the skill positions on offense, and we might be seeing them again in the playoffs. That's it for this week's update. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow and all of those good things to the Red and Gold Report. Thanks for watching, and go Chiefs!